No.
Oh, look. Oh. Wow. That's nice. So,
Hello. There we go.
oh, live. Live.
All right.
Wait, I can see anything.
I am hoping people on the call could see my monitor. Apologies, as this is the first time we've actually done a demo. This is using the YouTube live streaming options, and it's new technology for us. There's 0 people watching, it says.
This is the right link. Not this one that you sent me. No, it's another one. Look, the codes here. Copy paste somewhere. The other link. Yeah. Yeah. Paste somewhere so I can test it. Oh, wait. Streaming now.
All right.
Time to change.
All right. Excellent. Sorry about that, folks. A little bit of technical difficulty in the setup. Okay, so today we are going to go through the shareholder call. Excellent. Sorry about that, folks. A little bit of technical difficulty in the setup. Okay, so today we are going to go through the shareholder call. We're using YouTube live events, and to be perfectly honest, I have no idea how it works. But it is supposedly the way to run a Google Hangouts for a live streaming event. What we're going to focus on today is kind of everything that's going on in the world of crowd emotion. It's been a interesting 3 months throughout Q3. And we finished with some very good news of hitting trade break-even as our revenues and our servicing of those revenues get closer and closer together. I'm going to walk you through today some of the things that we've started to learn, and as we go through an audit of the company and everything that we're doing, some of the metrics we're starting to bring forward, as well as some of the other information that we're starting to track. If you aren't able to make it, this is being recorded, so we should be able to share more and share onwards if you had missed this. If you received the shareholder report, you would have seen that we cleared £70,000 in revenue over the 3 months, and we've managed to get our debts down to 55 grand from the 121 that it was at the beginning of the year. This was a large goal for the team. But in the effort to favor revenues, I think the challenge always was that we were trying to speed to market, and we were forgetting a little bit about our product quality, which has started to catch up with us. And so Diego's been very good at building something called the biometric signal analyzer, and we're going to get into some of how that's actually contributing to automation and performance of the company. So just a quick reminder, our company kind of is consisting of two specific sides. There's the artificial intelligence side, which today is largely based in the area of statistics, and it's statistic models. And then you have the emotion recognition side, which uses computer vision, deep learning, as well as other natural language processing models and those types of things. To kind of recognize whether people are smiling or happy or sad. What's interesting is how the two come together. So artificial intelligence currently runs off of good behavioral information, but that still misses what the subconscious actually says in terms of how people make decisions. And we really see our value proposition in blending the two. So bring artificial intelligence, the statistically based program, together with that more softer, ethically driven, empathetic-based programming. And this should create an intelligent future for us that is much more based on human-computer interaction, that is very human approach. We have a technical objective to be a zero integration barrier, which basically means we can plug into any sort of sensor. Okay. Part of this on the emotion side is actually working with different academics and different IP holders. So IP is an interesting topic, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later on today when we talk about investment. But what we currently do is we're currently partnered up with the University of Nottingham. They've got the best deep learning system on the planet, which actually has allowed us for a lot of scalability, which I'm quite proud of. And it's something that we've been able to put to use commercially, which is always difficult when you're taking out academic IP because it's typically built for the lab. After this, we will, we've already mentioned it before, but looking at voice, face, eye tracking, those types of things. It's really important that we keep in mind what the commercial use cases are because you can get distracted very quickly. The end goal is still a marketplace for all of this. But we have to start proving out through commercial use cases first, and that's where we will be focused for Q4 and onward. So I think the best representation of our business is actually the growth of our process data points because these are real humans, real users using our system, coming in, and in the early days you could very, very clearly see a staged approach every time we sold a new project. What we're seeing right from the initial launch of the API to getting that scalable system in play to launching our video testing tool, many of you know as Mimo, and that kicked off kind of halfway through through kind of the back half of last year. And then we see that plateau a little bit as we start to learn a little bit more about the user journey and how they need to package things up and the flexibility they need. And then what we did is we got that really big scaling infrastructure in at the core level of the API. And Diego was working really hard on that. We call this biometric signal analyzer. If you want to think about it, it's a good way to think about it is that it is the foundation for a very, very, very scalable house in which we can have different emotional signals living in different rooms. So they can all come together at the dining room table and you have a nice little family. And it can scale out from that kind of level. And so it's the foundation and the core of our technology. We found this is quite attractive from not only our clients, but also from our competitors who look to potentially even acquire or look to partner with us a lot closer. We found this is quite attractive from not only our clients, but also... When we look at the market, though, as you can see, there's lots of markets. And the biggest challenge with an API technology like this is that at the core, you can serve anywhere where human and computer interact. The biggest challenge always is focus. And Diego, from years of experience, has actually really called out kind of the focus and started to get us focused around scalability and functionality early on. And I think we started to see the results of that in Q3 after a really concerted effort over the last kind of 6 to 8 months. Particularly in the area of just seeing the increase of licensing value, processing, and specifically our gross margin. are much better off because of that focus. So what this has been doing for us is in the testing and the processing area, it's now we can go in as a replacement for the Affectivas and the Realizes of the world, and I'll talk about competitors in a little bit. But it does allow us kind of really in the core testing area, get into online publishing, ad formats, audience segmentation, market research, and video content. If you think of it at a high level, basically anyone who produces, creates, distributes video content will need to test it or make it searchable, and we fulfill both of those functions at an API level. This leads us to two customer personas. When we reviewed our kind of customer base and who they are, we really had two types of people come out of it. And you had the tool providers who kind of, these are seed, Series A, they're trying to disrupt the media industry by providing these tools that a marketer can use to test their content or make their video searchable. The service providers are already doing that manually, so they have to innovate with their own models and own expertise. So the tool providers typically have very little expertise, but they're good at productization, and they can take an API and run with it right away. So they ascribe to a SaaS model, very freemium-based, fast pilot periods, but no money in the early days. So you got cost per acquisition model that is around the 11 grand mark. With the service providers, they're 3 to 6 month sales cycle. They're a little bit longer. You have to work your way up into the CEO level and then back down to the EVP of Insights or research directors. But they will pay for their pilots, which is nice. We typically throw in a little bit of extra on top of that. And their recurring revenues are a little bit higher because they tend to sign larger full-scale deals to try and get volumes quickly. So it gives us kind of two different recurring revenue models, of which we have sold one already, and we have our first strategic coming in. It should be by the end of this month, but we got verbal confirmation from them last week. We also did an audit towards the customer journey. Now, this was a really, really good process to go through. Ginny, our product manager, our new product manager, she has literally just broken down everything we've done to each stage and all the different items in each stage. And I think it's really, 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 really important here to take a look. And that we also found that our reports are applicable to different types of people and different types of users in the organization. So this is where Mimo fell a little bit short when we built the initial product, is that the flexibility for reporting needed to be a little bit more comprehensive than what it is today. And so now that we've learned that, we could take that back to Mimo. However, with a focus on the API, I think it's important that we continue to stay focused on the core tech and use a human stopgap for reporting, or provide some of our methods after maybe patenting back to our customers so they can build it themselves. As you can see, it's a 7-stage process. We have identified areas throughout the entire chain that we can start to automate. And so once the audit is done, which we'll have an initial overview at the end of this week, we could start looking into how many days. One of the big challenges that is going to come up as a recurring theme is our dev capacity. We already have over 300 man days towards strictly automating this type of technology, which frankly is not an acceptable build rate moving forward. So the dev team is the area of priority. It is the area for hiring, but as we are a break-even company, it can only happen as we grow with the revenues. Our typical client journeys start with a setup, then they move through to pilot. These are all things, again, that we've learned in order to get us into a SaaS business, and we're looking at the estimated kind of annual recurring revenue is around 30 grand so far, but again, it's discretionary to volumes, and so it's a volume-based tier pricing scenario. In other scenarios, we look at just cost per stimulus. So that leaves us with our landscape. It's been an interesting quarter. In Q3, Affectiva moved into market. And with them moving into Europe, it again made us really understand and realize what our specific, where our fit was. Where do we actually sit in this market that was this new API technology? For us, it was super important to really be able to differentiate ourselves from Affectiva, not just be a rip and replace. In a number of different ways. One, because we haven't come from the academic standing right away, we really favor kind of ease of use and scalability. At the moment, Affectiva does have great SDKs, but it took them a while to get there, and our API has still been claimed by others, by users of both, to be more easier to use and more scalable. The other thing that we're noticing that is a massive key winner for us is our white label capability and our ability to educate our user to essentially own their insights flow. So it helps quite a bit from that perspective. We're also seeing Realize a little bit more in the market research space, and again being asked about our flexibility for both commercial models and for the methods for calculating and aggregating reports. I think if we keep a focus on scalability and ease of use, we will continue to hit our targets and being able to disrupt the current market, but also differentiate ourselves as much more of a marketplace and platform that's agnostic to the advertising industry, so we don't get pigeonholed. This allows us to really maintain our focus on the larger markets like entire emotional computing, which is around, it's estimated to be at around 22 billion by 2020. And I think we have a very good shot at being a main player there, particularly with the infrastructure now that Diego has built to take on new signals. From the pipeline perspective, so these are the people that we could onboard, but again, we will come across the one challenge, which is dev capacity, and just the capacity to service these people. So if we had 2 million in investment, we'd be able to move the needle at about twice the speed we're going at now. If we had 5 million, we'd be able to move it at about 4 times the speed we're going now. The nice thing is, again, in Europe, things are still a bit slower, not slower per se, but there's still enough market out there, and we still have enough of a head start that we could probably go about 18 months at this pace, we'd be fine. But that doesn't really provide any sort of leeway that I want to take in terms of speed to market. We have a nice opportunity. We could lose percentages of market share from the beginning, start at the beginning of the year. So the key here is to bring in financing and capital so that we can essentially provide a second tier group against our core kind of contributors like Diego, Stefano, Jing, Ginny, Pat, Steve, and myself. So growth speed is limited by development capacity, and as is the innovation speed. I'm not as concerned about innovation because we are well ahead on that front. I really like the stability of parts of our system. Other parts need to go through their quality control. And but as we focus towards quality and automation, I think it's really important that we see the results of that. And that brings me to kind of shareholder value. So it's been a long road. Admittedly, it's been a long time, and I know some of you have been in this from the beginning. And there are, it's always tough when you invest in a very kind of blue sky idea. Market timing is always a difficult one, and so is getting the tech to work and getting the right client base in. All I could say is, from the beginning where we had to be very forward-looking in where we push and where we progress, we have done so much prototyping in the different areas and mapped out the different types of businesses that could stem from crowd emotion that it really told us what the lowest common denominator is. And that lowest common denominator is built around the API with multiple endpoints through the aggregation and interpretation process. What this actually means is that we can essentially unlock a lot of markets at scale with a really, really defined dev team. And it creates a really nice shareholder value proposition. One that, again, there's not a lot of companies that have done the minimum amount of raising to get to where we are today. I mean, we are competing against people like Affectiva who've taken 33 million in funding. They've had 9 years to develop out, and yet we're still beating them in certain areas. So I think it's really important to keep in mind the landscape that we're in, how blue sky it is, but at the same time, I've never felt stronger about the business. That doesn't negate the value that cash is, the fact that cash is still king. And there are certainly some focuses for us in the areas of business development. So that's strategic partnerships and pilot projects to get us through. So we've identified kind of 3 strategic partnerships. And the strategic partners also essentially de-risk an investment, so it makes the raising with VCs easier. So the strategy and the operation moving forward for the next 13 weeks is actually really clear around automating the customer journey, bringing on 1 to potentially 3 strategics. We've identified one of them as a research group within one of the largest ad conglomerates in the world. Competes directly with Millward Brown, so it's very similar to the Millward Brown Affectiva deal, but potentially even bigger in some senses because they're very forward thinking. I'm very impressed with where they're going, and they've got very strong growth numbers. 2 more. One is a broadcaster that is a very big international broadcaster. They also build a lot of broadcast technology that they white label to all the other broadcasters. And then the third one is one of the oldest but biggest Japanese gaming companies looking to create emotional character sets. So we're very, very interested in those. We've been shortlisted on a lot of fronts for those. They have talked about investment as well as commercial deals. So we're just navigating our way through that. The earliest money probably from any one of them is going to hit in January, though some of them are doing paid pilots currently. That is what's been funding us to date. And with that, we're taking it out to the capital folks. So we have meetings and have had meetings with the new kind of direction for a £5 million raise, going after specifically those that understand kind of longer term IP and IPO type of plays in this type of industry. So that includes, we're kind of looking for the folks who can either help us through multiple rounds. VCs tend to be a little bit short term, and I do want to make a comment. I've shared with a lot of you the AI landscape in Europe. It is absolutely incredible, the amount of smart people in Europe. It is astounding. And the companies that are coming out of Europe are amazing. And they're primarily funded by US or Chinese investors. So on Friday, I'm speaking with the #1 competitive investment fund to Horizon Ventures, which is out of China, and this one's called Zhongzhe. I am also starting to open up the US investor conversations, and look to be planning a trip there at the end of the month to start those discussions as well. There were a couple of questions that came up throughout the shareholder conversation, because that's kind of all I have left for us today on the quarterly report. But from the shareholder conversations by email, there was a question that came up about share options for employees. I think when we originally agreed as part of the business direction, we wanted to get employee share options up to about 20%. Currently, it's around 4 or 5%. And so we will see a lot of the employees have taken less than normal salaries in order to earn some sweat equity. And so sometimes you'll see those resolutions, as you did just recently, come through about new shareholdings that are maturing into investment periods, into their vestiture periods. Like I said, we are actively going out on the investor and fundraising trail. That's my core focus at the moment. And for the next 13 weeks, it will be absolutely be plugging cash gaps with a good, strong sales pipeline that Jing is certainly working through very, very hard on. So wish us best of luck. But I think I'm very, very pleased with what the team has done. We've got a core team that is working in a really nice flow. We were able to secure Jing's visa so that she could stay on, and we're looking to hopefully secure Ginny's visa as well so that she can stay on, because she's bringing an incredible product flow. In the meantime, we'll have some new demos coming out that highlight the uses of the API so that we can help start to automate that sales process into the API usage with the developer community. Stay tuned. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to email them to either info@crowdemotion.co.uk or directly to me at matt@crowdemotion.co.uk. Really happy to answer anything one-to-one, and really, really, again, appreciate the support that everyone on this call has given. It means a lot to us. We're trying to overcome a lot of challenges, and it's always nice to know that we've got some people in our corner that have got our back. So really appreciate that, and I look forward to answering any further questions you might have. Have a great day, and enjoy. Now I'll figure out how to turn this off.